Asset security dreams shattered, shop rentals in Chinese towns have with no takers. She suddenly changes stance, no longer urges young people to endure hardship, underlying issues revealed. China's population declines, society faces turmoil. U.S. Congressional Committee report, CCP intensifies persecution of Falun Gong. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Asset security dreams shattered, shop rentals in Chinese towns have with no takers. As the economic tide recedes, not only have the vacancy rates of office buildings in China's large and medium-sized cities skyrocketed and business and shops become increasingly sluggish, but even shops in small towns, once seen as the safest investment option, are now difficult to rent out, falling into a predicament where even having the rent attracts no interest. On May 29, an in-depth investigative report published by the WeChat public account Daily People interviewed shop landlords in several small county towns in Jiangsu and Wuhan, revealing the increasingly difficult situation of renting out shops amidst the economic decline of these towns. The report begins, if buying a shop in a big city is about chasing a dream, a new beginning, then owning a shop in a county town is more like a road home, a safeguard asset, embodying many people's beautiful vision of one shop supports 3 generations, but now, that dream has ended. According to the report, Zhang Li lives in Shuyang County, Suqian City, Jiangsu Province. His parents bought 8 shops on the busiest commercial street in the county in their early years, all of which Zhang Li later managed. Due to their location near the local commercial center, these properties were never vacant for more than 2 months over the past 15 years. However, in the last 2 years, Zhang Li noticed that the once bustling commercial street has become increasingly deserted, and renting out the shops has become more difficult. Shops that once had continuous tenants now suffer from a lack of interest. Seeing how difficult it has become to attract tenants, Zhang Li has had no choice but to continually lower the rent. Zhang Li considers himself lucky, his shops are still being rented out, although, at the current rent, it will take 26 years to break even. Seeing other shop owners nearby unable to rent out their shops, he has started to be cautious in his lifestyle, fearing drawing envy. Zhao Xiaoxi, a shop owner in Wuhan, faced severe disappointments and financial losses with her investment. She bought a shop in 2020, misled by developer promises of a thriving location near schools, gyms, and subway lines, which never materialized. Zhao Xiaoxi managed to secure a shop at nearly 30,000 yuan, about $4,120 per square meter, which brought joy to her family. Now, she and her family have calculated the return on their investment, based on the current monthly rent of 1,300 yuan, about $180, it would take over 100 years to break even. This series of investment failures highlights the stark challenges retail property owners are facing post-pandemic, with once bustling malls turning into empty buildings and financial dreams dissolving into costly nightmares. She suddenly changes stance, no longer urges young people to endure hardship, underlying issues revealed. The Financial Times reported that a year ago, Xi Jinping told young Chinese struggling to find work that they should endure hardship and learn to tolerate difficulties. Today, China's youth unemployment rate is nearly 3 times the overall rate. On May 28, she called on the CCP Central Politburo Leadership Group to prioritize providing high-quality full employment, a stark contrast to his message to young people last May. China's economic downturn is impacting the pension fund. According to forecasts by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, China's economy is expected to continue its downturn and may even worsen in the coming years. At the same time, China faces the threat of a demographic time bomb. Currently, China is among the countries with the lowest fertility rates globally, with a population that is shrinking and aging. The prospect of China growing rich before growing old is no longer expected. The rapidly changing demographic structure is placing enormous pressure on China's underfunded pension system. China is facing the most severe economic slowdown in 40 years, resulting in high unemployment and little savings available for people. Young people are questioning whether they should save for retirement. Some choose not to contribute, citing scarce job opportunities, low wages, and a future filled with uncertainties. Their skeptical attitude poses a severe challenge for CCP leader Xi Jinping. Notably, according to estimates from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, the accumulated surplus of the urban workers' basic pension insurance fund will be depleted by 2035. By then, 520 million people, or nearly 40% of the current population, will be over the age of 60. Wang Tao, chief economist for UBS China, notes, due to an aging population, there is skepticism about the future of pensions. People are concerned that there will be less available when it's time for them to retire. In the next decade, 300 million Chinese are expected to retire, placing enormous pressure on the dwindling workforce. Millions of young people are currently overworked, disillusioned, and exhausted. Although personal pension plans are still being tested in dozens of cities, the shrinking population and economic downturn are reducing people's ability to contribute to these optional schemes. As of the end of 2023, although over 50 million people had opened personal pension accounts, only about 20% actually contributed funds, with an average saving of merely around 2,000 yuan, approximately $275. The pressure is mounting, and worried CCP officials and experts are increasingly urging young people to save money and participate in private pension plans. Some are even suggesting daily sacrifices, like skipping coffee, to contribute to retirement funds. Meanwhile, concerns grow that the basic pension will be insufficient in their old age, leading to a mixed reaction among the youth, some of whom find these calls counterproductive. For many young Chinese, the future of pensions remains a significant concern, colored by economic challenges and a rapidly changing demographic landscape. China's population declines, society faces turmoil. Since 2022, China's population dynamics have been dire, with the number of deaths surpassing births. Official Chinese data indicates a reduction of 850,000 people in 2022 from the previous year and a further decrease of 2.08 million by 2023. These numbers should be cautiously approached due to potential inaccuracies in the CCP's reporting. Of course, everyone knows that the CCP's official data involve falsification and inaccuracies, and these figures are only for reference. Globally, the inflection point of the population is also often the turning point for economic and social development, impacting labor, pensions, economic growth momentum, and even overall societal development, leading to significant changes. So, what changes will occur in China's future with the population decline? Professor Li Xiaomin from Old Dominion University in Virginia, USA, pointed out on the NTD's Elite Forum that without strong government intervention, China's declining population trend is unlikely to reverse. Interestingly, global patterns usually show a decrease in death rates followed by a gradual decline in birth rates. However, the Chinese government has forcibly reduced birth rates without addressing mortality, leading to the current low levels of population growth. Population structure is crucial, typically depicted as a pyramid with a broad base representing a young population. It naturally narrows at the top as people age and pass away. In China, however, restrictive birth policies have shrunk the base of this pyramid, a slow but steady change, making the population increasingly older. Political campaigns by the CCP and external factors like war and famine occasionally disrupt this structure, leading to significant social adjustments required in labor, marriage, employment, and education. Li Xiaomin also discussed the cultural shift in China regarding childbirth. Historically, children were seen as economic assets, especially in agricultural societies where they contributed to the household from a young age. Modern China, however, is marked by involution and intense competition. From pregnancy, parents are burdened with securing a prosperous future for their children, including a prestigious education, which adds significant pressure and diminishes the joy of parenthood. This stark contrast is evident when compared to countries like Canada and Australia, where having children is considered a joy and societal support for parenting is substantial. However, now in China, when young people think about having children, they are scared, thinking not about the joy of family but about the cost. Moreover, many young people now think having children affects their quality of life, associating children with various extracurricular educations, such as piano and dance classes, which has become a cultural norm. It's not mandatory, but if you don't do it, it's embarrassing. Li Xiaomin said that China's economy used to be poor, not because of overpopulation, but because of the CCP's erroneous economic policies, like excessive steel production and managing food through people's communes, which were nonsensical. However, the CCP thought that reducing the population would solve the problem, which is shirking responsibility, attributing the poor economic development to overpopulation, a notion from the CCP's early population ideology. Then came a group of natural scientists led by Song Jian, a rocket scientist who suddenly had nothing else to do and began using the so-called control theory to calculate that China's optimal population was 500 million, for reasons unknown, and the CCP actually believed this nonsense, leading to a sharp drop from allowing 2 children to just 1 in the late 1970s. China faces unique challenges. The one-child policy has resulted in a gender imbalance and an aging population, complicating economic and social development. The CCP's policies have historically focused on reducing population numbers rather than fostering economic growth through sensible policies. This has led to a demographic crisis where the number of elderly increases while the younger population, necessary for economic sustainability, dwindles. China's future is uncertain, with systemic issues exacerbated by demographic challenges. Addressing these requires a fundamental shift in policies and societal attitudes towards population and development. U.S. Congressional Committee Report: CCP Intensifies Persecution of Falun Gong. The Congressional Executive Commission on China, CECC, recently released its 2023 annual report, examining the human rights situation and the development of the rule of law in China. The report highlights the CCP's systematic human rights abuses and urges Congress and the Biden administration to act based on the sex policy recommendations. In the 20 chapters of the 2023 annual report, the CECC meticulously documented the CCP's suppression of free speech, crackdown on civil society, infringement of religious freedom, interference in judicial fairness, and authoritarian rule. The report reveals that the Chinese authorities have failed to fulfill the obligations stipulated by international treaties, systematically violating human rights and posing challenges to the international order and the security of U.S. citizens and residents. Regarding religious freedom, the report states that the CCP's persecution of Muslims, Christians, and Falun Gong practitioners has worsened. In 2023, hundreds of Falun Gong practitioners were sentenced to prison, and dozens died from mistreatment. Chinese authorities imposed heavy sentences on male and female Falun Gong practitioners labeled as core members. Officials continued to subject detained Falun Gong practitioners to torture, beatings, and abuse. Falun Gong practitioner and Sichuan radio host Pang Sun was tortured to death, a case that was included in this year's annual report. The report notes, in February 2023, a friend of Pang Sun posted a video of his death on Twitter, stating that he was beaten to death by the authorities. In 2020, Chengdu authorities arrested Pang Sun for distributing Falun Gong flyers and sentenced him to 5 years in prison. Wu Xiaoping, a human rights lawyer based in the United States, said, "In a normal and civilized country, freedom of belief is one of the most fundamental rights people have. However, in communist China, people do not have such basic rights and freedoms. Moreover, ordinary citizens are often persecuted and imprisoned by the CCP for adhering to their beliefs. Through such cruel realities, it is evident that the CCP is a very evil regime." According to the Sex Political Prisoner Database, as of June 30, 2023, 2,615 individuals were still unjustly imprisoned, 460 of whom are Falun Gong practitioners. Additionally, the report includes Falun Gong cases in sections related to Black prisons and violence against women. Minghui.org statistics show that in 2023, 209 Falun Gong practitioners were known to have been persecuted to death by the CCP, 172 in 2022, 131 in 2021, and 84 in 2020. Wu Xiaoping stated, "The number of Falun Gong practitioners persecuted to death is increasing yearly, as is the number suffering severe punishment by the CCP." Through such data, we can see that the evilness of the CCP regime is intensifying, and the human rights and rule of law situation in China has not improved at all with societal development. Under Xi Jinping's era, the persecution of Falun Gong by the CCP has not only failed to lessen but has become increasingly severe. By examining the human rights situation of this group, we can also glimpse the human rights status of the entire Chinese populace. The report also includes recommendations for action by the U.S. Congress and executive agencies. CECC Chairman Christopher Smith stated that the annual report will continue to guide Congress and government policy towards China. He also hopes to provide clear messages to businesses, preventing them from inadvertently subsidizing tyranny. Most importantly, he wishes for the long-suffering people of Communist China to know through this report that they have not been forgotten and can look forward to the day when oppression ends. Don't forget to comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. If you find the information helpful, please share this video with a friend to watch together. This will be a great source of motivation for our team to produce more and more quality and reliable videos. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths. Thank you for tuning in.